What's up guys and welcome back to Moan Inc. If you guys are new here, then what is up? My name is Erica. Hey, how you doing? For today's video, I'm going to be telling you guys about the 6 most important ancient Greek pieces of literature to read about Greek mythology. Previously on the channel, I have already done videos breaking down modern interpretations of Greek myths or compilations of Greek myths that have been written by either academics or just enthusiasts in all of this to tell you guys when you walk into a bookshop, what you can actually buy that's useful and what you probably can miss out if you guys really actually want to learn. And so you guys can watch all of those other videos here on the channel if you guys please. But today we are just going to be talking about the ancient source material and specifically books. Okay, so I'm not going to be talking about plays, philosophy, history, none of that stuff. That will be in a separate video. Each of them will get their own separate video. Today we're just going to be doing the books that you can read cover to cover as a story and as just like one compact thing, right? So with that being said, please do not forget to hit the subscribe button and the bell icon so you know every single time I post in the future. And let's roll into the books. So the first 2 books that you absolutely cannot avoid when wanting to learn about ancient Greek mythology, and I know that everybody is going to have like a really deep inhale and be like, really, Erica, do we have to? Yes, the 2 books are by Homer and they are the Iliad and the Odyssey. So both of these books, the reason why they are sort of on par with each other is because these books are referenced just as much as each other throughout literally all time. Okay, you cannot avoid people discussing Homer, people discussing the Trojan War and Odysseus' journey home from the Trojan War. Now, if you guys are intimidated by these books, they're a little bit thicker than the other ones, they're actually a lot thicker than the other ones we're going to be discussing. And I know that there is a massive reputation about both of them, which means that people I think that people think that they are very unapproachable, but the stories in them, I promise you guys, are super fun, they are super enjoyable, and they are very, very different from one another. Now, in order to help you guys, if you guys don't know where to start, or if you guys buy the books and you're like, oh my god, what am I doing? I have created 2 series here on the channel where I break down these books chapter by chapter, okay? Because they are so important, it is so vital that you know the story and you know the characters. However, when it comes to what the books are about, this book is more so the war book. The Iliad is set on the plains of Troy in the 9th year of the Trojan War, when the Greeks are fighting with the Trojans in a bid to get Helen, the most beautiful woman in the world, back into the arms of her husband because she ran away from him. This book sees characters like Achilles, Diomedes, Odysseus, Agamemnon, Menelaus, Hector, Paris, all of these great heroes on the battlefield fighting, although none of the really famous moments from the Trojan War happen in this book. So we don't get, the Trojan horse or the siege of Troy itself. We don't get any of those things. This book is really about the rage of Achilles. That's literally the opening line. And sort of these little markers throughout the story of Achilles getting more and more and more angry and influencing the action of this book. It is filled with gods. It is filled with a wild, wild story. Not enough people read it, and I would definitely recommend you actually start here. However, the majority of people do start with the Odyssey, and that is because the Odyssey is more so an adventure book. It is about Odysseus, who is one of the heroes from the Iliad. It's about his journey home. So it takes him like 10 years to get home, and he encounters crazy things along the way, including monsters, witches, different gods dressed up as different things, different peoples. Like, he goes everywhere. It is very much a stereotypical mythological story. So this is where lots of people do start. So if you guys are fans of Circe by Madeline Miller, or if you guys are fans even of like Percy Jackson, a lot of Percy Jackson is influenced by the Odyssey. So I would definitely recommend, I'm actually going to order you guys pretty much to start with both of these. I would recommend starting with the Iliad and then going into the Odyssey. However, I know I can't make you do anything, and if you would prefer to start with the Odyssey and then read the Iliad, that is fine as well, as long as both of these are read, because they are referenced everywhere. I should also note that Homer is noted as an epic poem, and so therefore you can find translations in both verse and in prose. That was the word I was looking for. So you can find translations in both of them depending on which you would prefer to read. I personally would start off with a prose version if you guys are totally new to reading epic poetry. And the one that I have here is the Richard Hammond one, which I really, really love for prose. But if you guys do want to read the the poetry version, then you can read, I would recommend Lattimore. I think that he is absolutely fantastic in his translation. And then the Odyssey is sort of the same. The one that I have here for the Odyssey is the Fagles one. That's like the really famous one. I do like Fagles, and I think there are a number of other ones. There's a really new one by Emily Wilson, which is also, I haven't actually read it, but I've heard that it's fantastic in its translation. But leading on from Homer, the most important book that you guys should be buying for Greek mythology, aside from those two in the Trojan War, is Hesiod's Works and Days and Theogony. So these are both of the poems thrown into one. They are written around the same time as Homer. However, significantly thinner. Okay, this is a teeny tiny book, and the way that I describe Hesiod is really, it's like a who's who of Greek mythology, of the Greek gods. And I know that a lot of classicists will hear me say that and be like, a little more than that. But essentially, for you guys who are massive newbies, what the Theogony specifically does is it will say like, this is a god, and these are the god's children, and then these are the children after that, and then blah, blah, blah. And it's just like a very, very long family tree of what is going on in Greek myth. And even monster-wise, you know, we hear little references to different monsters, of who they came from, and all of this sort of stuff. Now, Hesiod does also go into like the origins of humanity. So we do get the Pandora myth and we do get the Prometheus myth, but they are not written out in full. They're very much in just sort of like a little chunk here and there. Obviously, it is super teeny tiny. You can literally read this in an afternoon and just sort of have it in your back pocket as a reference of, again, who is who in Greek myth. So this is one that is not spoken about nearly enough as Homer, but it is definitely just as important. Book number 4, but technically book number 3, because we did Homer at the same time. So book number 3 or 4, depending on how you want to count all of these, is one that probably a lot of people don't know. It's not one that's really well known outside of the academic community. It's not one that most people buy. However, it is the Homeric Hymns, and I was going to say it's by somebody, but like it kind of gets a little bit complicated because we did attribute them to being by Homer. However, I say recently, it's not really been like in the last couple of years, but like in recent scholarship, we have figured that it's probably written by a bunch of different people, just kind of trying to be the same style of poetry. But what these are is that they are little hymns, right? They're Homeric hymns to the various gods of Greek mythology. Now, for a lot of you guys who are haven't read any of the other ones that I've spoken about and not really into the ancient Greek source material, you're going to be like, well, what is the thing that is drawing me into this book? Is there one thing that I should be reading? And the way that I sell this to absolutely everyone is that if you like the Hades, Demeter, and Persephone myth, that comes up in here. So this is the text that you are going to want to read in order to see the abduction of Persephone from the Greek point of view. It is incredibly dark. It is probably not how you know it based on the mythological retellings that are out in the world. However, this is one of the original ways that the myth is shown, and that is in the hymn to Demeter. So there are lots of different hymns, you know, hymn to Apollo, there's hymn to Demeter, here's hymn to Demeter, you know, so they're all addressed to different gods. And a lot of them aren't in full. A lot of them are sort of a little bit of found at each of them, and we're kind of piecing them together over time. But the hymn to Demeter is in full, and so that does tell you that story. So I would highly recommend reading at least that one. If you're going to read one of them, just read the hymn to Demeter, because that is very important to understand the progression of, again, the progression of myths and sort of where they start and where they come from and all of that sort of jazz. So the penultimate book that I think you guys need to get is Jason and the Golden Fleece by Apollonius of Rhodes. Now, this is a book that a lot of people outside of scholarship don't really read because, you know, I actually don't know why a lot of people don't read this. I think it's probably because lots of people have read Medea by Euripides, and that tends to be the be-all, end-all of Jason's story, when actually it is just the end of Jason's story, where he is, unfortunately, a dick, for lack of a better word. He is not a nice person in that play, and I feel like because of that, everybody judges Jason purely on that. I have to be totally honest. That tends to cloud my judgment of his character. However, this book gives us the origins of Jason, right? This is Jason as sort of like the kid that's given this task to go across the sea, to go into the Black Sea from where he is in Greece, which is very, very far, and to go and retrieve the Golden Fleece and bring it back to his evil uncle in Greece, who is currently taken over the throne where he's from. This book is such a traditional ancient Greek myth of a journey, of a hero's journey, of this kid becoming a man, and all of the great people that are on this boat with him. So they all go on the Argo. That's why they're called Jason and the Argonauts. So they all go on the Argo, and we've got a really famous hero like Peleus, who's Achilles' dad. We've got Meleager, who's really famous for the Caledonian boar hunt. We've got Heracles. You know, we've got these like massive heroes that go with Jason, and these massive personalities that he has to manage and learn from and lead, most importantly. And I think it's a really enjoyable book that people tend to forget exists, and it's not that thick. It really isn't. It's really a nice, short and easy read, and I would definitely add this all to your list, to your Amazon wish list or to your bookshop list next time you go to find some Greek myth books. Now, the last book that I'm going to recommend you guys is actually one that I wasn't going to recommend myself. And the reason why is because, well, all of the books that I've been discussing are in the BC. However, the next book is from the AD. It is still Greek, but it is from much later than the other books that I've been discussing. And also, it's not my favorite book, and that is Apollodorus's Library of Greek Mythology. Now, the reason why I'm recommending it, and I'll tell you why I didn't want to recommend it, is because a lot of people have left this in the comments below on my videos when people have asked for Greek mythology books. People tend to recommend this one to other people, which I love. I love that there's a book that people can gravitate towards for the Greek versions of specific myths and to find them all in one place, because that's what this book does, is that it has a lot of myths in here that are reduced to like as small as a paragraph and then extended to a few pages. So we have, you know, like the labors of Hercules, for example. Heracles, I am so sorry. We have the labors of Heracles that are written about in this book, but we also get things like a shorter version of Jason and the Golden Fleece in here as well, and the Trojan War in short in here as well. So there are a number of very small myths in there, which I guess is good for people who are trying to get into it and just kind of want all of them in one place. But the reason why I wouldn't have put it on the list myself is simply because I didn't discover the book until much later in my academic career. I'm currently 26, by the way. So I've been studying this subject for a very long time. What is that? Since 12 to 26. That's like 14 years that I've been studying this. And I only found out that this book existed when I was like at university, right? So I spent the majority of my time dipping in and out of the books that I've been discussing rather than referencing this book itself. And then when I did find it, I just thought that like, well, all of these are really short, so why would I recommend this to people? I'd much rather recommend the big books. However, because this is for total newbies, maybe this is the one that you guys start with, as long as you bear in mind that this is from so much later than the other books that I've been discussing, and the stories are not necessarily in full, then I think it's fine, and I think it's a good thing to add to the list. It's better to add to the list than to take it away from it, so that you guys know that this option does exist. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope that it helped you figure out what books that you should actually gravitate towards specifically for Greek mythology and specifically for literature, rather than plays or rather than reading any of the other genres, any of the other, you know, academic sort of spheres when it comes to the ancient world. And I hope that when you guys, you know, now walk into a bookshop, you guys are kind of getting a better understanding of what to actually go towards based on your own personal interests. So yeah, again, thank you so much. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like the video whilst you're down there, because all of that really helps for my analytics. But thank you guys so much, and I'll be seeing you next time with more videos here on Monique. So I'll see you guys then.